Greetings and thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Dr. Jeanette DeWitt. I'm a doctor of physical therapy. Today, I am going to walk you through self-myofascial release with the stick. This is a flexible massage stick, and I do recommend this product because of its flexibility. It gives a little bit, so when you're trying to massage out some of your muscles that are tight, it feels a little more comfortable. However, if you do not have a stick like this, you can try using a small, medium size rolling pin that you might have from the kitchen. So first of all, I like to start in the neck region. And if we look at the base of the head, we just want to kind of get the base of these little tiny postural muscles. And we're just going to go on each side about 10 to 20 strokes. These muscles get really, really tight if we're um, looking up, watching videos, doing exercise. Also, if we're down into looking at our smartphones, they get overstretched. And then if you're on a computer a lot and you're looking forward, you kind of have this forward head motion. So getting these little muscles is a good idea. And then coming down on each side of the spine, being careful not to get directly on the spine itself. You do not ever want to use the stick on a bony area. You want to use this on soft tissue only. Next, we're going to go to these upper shoulder muscles and upper neck muscles, the upper trapezius, the levator scapulae muscles. These are muscles that also, they help the shoulder blade move and they help give support and mobility to your neck. But they also are a common place of muscle tension. So working on those muscles is a really good idea. Do about 10 to 20 strokes on those. Next, we're going to get the latissimus dorsi. So that muscle actually attaches from the low back all the way up to the shoulder. So we get kind of that shoulder blade area. And same rules apply. We stay on muscle area. We don't get onto the bone or the edges of the shoulder blade. And we work all the way down into the lumbar or low back region. This is a common point of tightness. And keep in mind that this muscle runs in the same direction as your opposite gluteus maximus. So if you are having shoulder issues, it will absolutely impact or influence the opposite gluteus maximus muscle, the butt muscle that gives your butt shape, basically. So we're getting all through there. And the reason that's important is because if you take the muscle fibers of your gluteus maximus and you cross it over onto the opposite side, it's creating an X across your back. So if that gets tight, just if your shoulder's tight, maybe from doing lat pull downs, or if you're rowing, kayaking as cross training, or whatever you may be doing, if your lats get really tight, then it can impact how your gluteus maximus functions because of the fiber direction of those muscles. Next, we're going to actually go into the gluteus maximus region. I recommend coming up into this area. We get the top fibers of your butt muscle, and then we go all the way down so that we're getting gluteus maximus and piriformis. If you're a runner or if you ruck like I do, rucking is a urban walking with a rucksack that's weighted. The piriformis can get kind of tight. Some runners will get piriformis syndrome and gets really, really tight through there. You also have other muscles as well, about 5 other deep rotator muscles of the hip. So we want to work both sides, getting about 10 to 20 strokes along the gluteus maximus, piriformis, and all the other hip rotator muscles too. All right. Next, we can get Gluteus medius. Gluteus medius is a key muscle because when you stand on one leg, if gluteus medius is weak, your opposite pelvis will drop like that. And it's hard to control your balance too. So we want to get gluteus medius, and you can actually get this muscle a little bit better with a foam roller, but I'll show that in a different video. This is using the stick, and then there's another little muscle right here called the tensor fascia lata, and that's the TFL. That likes to get really short and tight too, especially if you sit throughout the day. So if you're a student or if you're an office worker, then that can get tight as well. Let's go ahead and get both sides. So we get gluteus medius, which is kind of in the back and on the side, that hip stabilizing muscle. And then we'll get that TFL muscle kind of in the front. Key thing, there's a bone right there. That's your hip bone. And when you don't want to be digging on that with this stick. So just be careful in this area. It tends to be a little bit more bony because of the pelvis. All right. Now to get the top of the leg, this is your quadriceps. We're just going to go across the top. You have 4 quadriceps muscles. The one in the middle on top is the rectus femoris. That moves from the front of the pelvis all the way to below your knee. And then on the side here, we have vastus lateralis. That's the outer quad muscle. Underneath the rectus femoris is the rectus intermedius. It's a little bit deeper. And then on the inside is vastus medialis oblique, or if you've ever heard of somebody say their VMO. The VMO is the muscle that when you tighten your leg, you should have a nice little teardrop right there. If you don't, that means your legs are probably weak. Now we're going to go to the outside back area and get hamstring muscle, biceps femoris. Kind of go into the meat of all 3 hamstring muscles in the back of the leg. And then if you go more on the inside, you get 2 other inside hamstring muscles called the semimembranosus and the semitendinosus. So along with this, I like to get the iliotibial band. The iliotibial band actually forms from gluteus medius, PFL, and comes down and attaches at the lower leg bone on the outside called the fibula. So you're getting a little bit of anatomy lesson. I like to do that because it's important that you know what muscles you're targeting and why. All of these muscles work together. We're going to get the other side. All these muscles work together to propel you forward. So your leg muscles are supposed to be moving you forward, and then some of your hip muscles are meant to stabilize you. So here we are back at rectus femoris, that surface quad muscle. Underneath it is rectus intermedius. Then on the side, we're back at vastus lateralis. We do 10 to 20 strokes. By the way, it's a little bit of a cardio workout if you're doing this properly because you're moving your arms. And we'll get the inside of that VMO, vastus medialis. And as you're doing this, the arm workout is the bonus. Also along the inside that I didn't mention when we were doing this on the opposite side is your adductor muscles, your adductor magnus, your adductor longus. You have pectineus and gracilis muscles in there as well. We'll go ahead and get the hamstring. Inner hamstrings are the semimembranosus, semitendinosus. I'm not going to quiz you on this, by the way, but it's important to know what muscles we're talking about so that you know where you're tight. Your hamstrings collectively can be very tight in running activities, and we'll get that biceps femoris on the back and side. And then if we go to the side, we're going to get the iliotibial band again. And that takes care of our quadriceps, our outer hip muscles, our inner thigh muscles, known as the adductors, and then the back of the leg muscles. Now, when we go to do the calf muscles, I do recommend you go ahead and slip your shoes off because we want to get the bottom of the foot after we get the calf. So super, super important in preventing Achilles tendonitis and preventing plantar fasciitis. Very common hiking, rucking, running, walking type injuries. With the calf muscles, we want to target all of them. In the back of the calf, you have two muscles called the gastrocnemius and the soleus. They both have two bellies, an outer belly and an inner belly. Let's go ahead and get the outer belly first. So when we're doing this, we're just going up and down, up and down. Now, the inner belly, known as the medial gastrocnemius, that muscle, if that is tight, it will send a trigger point referral pattern down to the arch. And you will think that you have plantar fasciitis when really you have a tight calf. So I would recommend if you are in a running, walking, hiking, rucking sport, that you spend a little extra time on that medial gastrocnemius. And I also recommend you spend time on the shin bone here, or not the shin bone, but the shin muscle, excuse me, the anterior tibialis. Because that muscle, when it gets tight, it likes to splinter off of the lower leg bone called the tibia, and that's how you get shin splints. So we don't want that. Again, and then we're getting the outer leg muscles too, which helps stabilize the ankle. If you're running a bunch of cross country or trails or hiking on trails, that muscle, these muscles on the outside of the leg get really, really tight. Then we want to roll this from the outer arch, heel to toes, and make sure you get the inner and arch as well. Now, if you're sore with any of this, slow down. This is about the speed that I tend to go. It doesn't tend to take me as long as this video will be because I'm instructing and teaching at the same time. But it's important for you to know your body, because when you know your body and you understand how it works, then you can see the importance of doing exercises. We're going to switch sides. We're going to target that back outer muscle and of the calf. And when you know what's happening with your body, number one, if something goes wrong and doesn't feel good, you can tell somebody and it helps them figure out what's going on. Now let's get that inner medial gastrocnemius that likes to refer to the arch. Spend a little extra time there. And then we want to target that outer shin muscle and the outer muscles of the lower leg. So this is that anterior tibialis muscle that prevents shin splints, along with making sure you have proper strengthening of the shin muscles and the calf muscles. And then these outer muscles that stabilize your ankle, those are called the peroneals, or that's how I learned it, but now it's called the fibularis longus, fibularis brevis. Different names. Everything's pretty much in the medical world based on Latin names. And we have the arch again, the outer arch, and then working across the entire arch and the inner arch. So important to do this kind of quickly prior to a workout. And the reason you want to do it prior to a workout is wakes the muscles up. And when you wake the muscles up, then they're ready to perform. When they're ready to perform and they're not tight and restricted, then they have more blood flow going through them. So you actually have more access to your muscles than you would if you had not done self myofascial release to start with. So my point in saying that is a lot of people skip the warm up and they skip the myofascial release beforehand. They focus on it after. There's nothing wrong with doing it afterwards. But when you do it before, especially if you've have an early morning workout and you've been sleeping and not fully woken up yet, or if you've been sitting all day and you're at work or at school, then what can happen, you get really tight. So going through here and doing self myofascial release with the stick will actually help you loosen up a lot of restrictions. And when a muscle is not at normal length, so look at this for me. If a muscle is at normal length and it's restricted, it's balled up, that means you don't have access to all the muscle fibers you need to contract, relax. If you don't have all the access to those muscle fibers, you will come across as weakness. The first sign of a trigger point and muscle restrictions is actually weakness, not pain. That's really, really important. I'm going to say that again. The first sign of a muscle restriction or a trigger point is not pain, it is weakness. And the reason it is weakness is because your muscle fibers are all bundled in a knot, in a spasm, or in a trigger point, which, by the way, can be as small as a grain of rice. If that happens, you don't have access. If you don't have access to all your muscle fibers, you will feel weak, or let's just say we're talking about your legs will feel heavy. So if you are experiencing those symptoms, I really encourage you to try the stick before you work out and try a little self myofascial release. The other time to do this is after a workout, before you would stretch. So you finish your cool down. Let's just say you did stride outs. Maybe you eased up and walked 3 to 5 minutes to cool down. And you could do self myofascial release to kind of ease any tension left over from the actual workout and then go into stretching. Because if you have restrictions in your legs or in your muscles and wherever they may be, and you go to stretch, if they're knotted up, you can't possibly stretch. You're fighting a losing battle. But now self myofascial release comes in, it's a physical intervention that will ease out and work out that muscle restriction. And when that happens, now you can contract, relax, and you can fully stretch. That makes your stretching much more fluid. It makes it much more effective, and you'll actually elongate the tissues out, and this is what you should feel when you're done. You should feel that your legs are lighter, that you feel refreshed, that you feel, I'm taller than when I was before I did the self myofascial release and the stretching. I hope that you find this helpful. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask. And go ahead and enjoy this video. You can watch it as many times as you like. It's going to walk you through exactly the same self myofascial release that I do every day before my workouts. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.